Ben, are you looking to escape academics in this semester on a nice warm beach this upcoming week?
John, I know I am, and I know a lot of Ohio University students will be hitting the coast this coming week for spring break, but a lot of Ohio sports teams will be right here trying to grab the bull by the horns.
That's right. The Ohio basketball team is going to take on Buffalo in a very crucial matchup coming up this Saturday. We'll talk about that and much more tonight on Ohio Sports Zone. Hello and welcome into another episode of Ohio Sports Zone. I'm John Kosas alongside Ben Mitchell. And Ben, the Ohio hockey team competed in the CSCHL tournament last week. They were driving very strongly until the championship game. They held a lead and eventually fell in overtime. What happened?
Yeah, they finished very strongly in the regular season, picking up that second seed in the CACHL that bought them a bye. They eventually beat Iowa State in the semifinal to get to the final to face Robert Morris, the 5 seed, the 5th and the last seed to come into the CSCHL tournament. So not a lot of people expected them to get past Lindenwood, but they put in a great effort there. Then they got past Illinois to set up a date with Ohio. Ohio's finished 2 times in a row the runner-up spot in the CSCHL, and they wanted to get this one for the seniors, but they fell a little short. They had the lead 2-1 in the third period, but a semi-breakaway, what Coach Hogan called it, for RMU gave a penalty for them that led to a penalty shot. RMU was able to tie that game, and then they used a lot of offensive opportunity in overtime to clip the Bobcats and end their streak at a CSCHL championship.
And here's the big thing for this Ohio team. They've gotten to the final many times, just like they've gotten deep into the ACHA tournament multiple times. They just have been unable to get over that hump and win another ACHA tournament or win another CSCHL tournament. Moving forward past the CSCHL tournament, this Bobcat team is seeded 6th in the ACHA tournament. They will face number 10, Lebanon Valley, in the first round if they should win. The winner between Lebanon Valley and Ohio will play the winner of kind of a double-edged contest here. The winner of Stony Brook and whoever wins behind Syracuse and Illinois, another CSCHL team, which brings me to my next point. The reason that the CSCHL tournament could be a believable result with the 5th and final seed winning is because how deep the CSCHL is. There were at one point 4 ranked teams in the CSCHL. There's just an abundant amount of talent. It is without a doubt in my mind the toughest division in the ACHA.
Yeah, pretty much the tournament for the CACHL was pretty much playing for pride because all 5 of the teams in the league got a berth into the national tournament, and all 5 were ranked inside the top 15 heading into this tournament. So the depth of this league, the next highest of leagues to clinch that many tournament appearances, was the GLCHL with 4 and the WCHL with 4. So the CSCHL is clear above and arrest one of the best conferences in hockey. Ohio cannot get too caught up in losing to Robert Morris. They got to be happy about beating Iowa State and getting a berth into the championship, but they've got to play a simple game, like Coach Hogan said, to make their mark on the national tournament coming up.
And there's another team that is heading into tournament play. That's actually the Ohio wrestling team. They ended the regular season on an 8 dual meet winning streak. They finished against American with an 18-16 win. It was a close overall match, the closest Ohio has seen in recent times. Cody Walters gets a major decision. He wins 18-1. That was a big turning point in that wrestling match, as Ohio had not picked up a win before that. But not only him, but the freshman who has shown the entire year that he deserves to be recognized, Cameron Kelly, ends up getting a huge win. He was perfect. He won 16-0 by technical foul in the first period. Those two guys are going to be guys to look at in this tournament, Ben.
Yeah, Coach Joel Greenlee said, we lost some battles, but we ended up winning the war against American. You also had Kellen Cummings for Ohio picking up a 6-4 win, had a lot of stalemates in his battle, but was able to get 2 points up on his opponent. You also had Phil Wellington and Jesse Webb, both in the upper weight classes, picking up big wins for Ohio, 6-2 and 3-1. So Ohio was able to scrape together that very close 18-16 victory. And you got to like these guys. You talked about Cody Walters and Cam Kelly. Cody Walters is 22-3, 13-2 on the year, 9th ranked in his weight class by Intermat, and freshman Cam Kelly is having a spectacular season, 20-5, 13-1 in dual matches, and he's ranked 13th in his weight division. So you got to look for those two guys, a freshman and a senior, to lead this wrestling team, the 20th ranked Ohio Bobcat wrestling team, into the tournament to see what they can do from there.
Yeah, this wrestling team has been on an absolute roll, and it's great that they pick up this 8th consecutive win instead of falling to a tougher opponent in American, as they are one of the toughest opponents this Ohio team has faced on their dual streak. It's a great momentum builder into the tournament. We're going to hit a quick commercial break, though. When we come back, we're going to talk about two teams that are just starting off the year rather than ending it. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Ohio Sports Zone.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Welcome back into Ohio Sports Zone, where we will now head out to the Diamond and talk about the Ohio baseball team, who just got their season kicked off last weekend in a 3-game series against UNC Asheville in North Carolina. Ohio was able to use a very fast start like they did a season ago, picking up an opening win. They got 2 this past weekend and finished the weekend 2-1.
They finished 2-1. They had a couple of stellar performances, the biggest of which actually came from a freshman, Rudy Rott, a name you weren't expecting to hear. Rudy Rott ends up going 5 for 7 in 2 starts this weekend. He gets 6 RBIs, scores 2 runs, and he had a 3-run home run. He's replacing a really big name at first base. That's Jake Madsen, the all-time leader for hits in Ohio baseball history. All of a sudden, he gets off to a start with 5 hits of his own. Man, it's great to see a young guy do so well, particularly when he has such big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and you see a lot of names that are going to produce this year. John Adrian, is going to get his hits. Mitch Longo has been a presence with this Ohio program ever since he was a freshman, so he is going to have his name. But Rudy Rott, coming out of nowhere as a freshman and making his presence in the opening weekend, really says something about the way Ohio baseball has turned the corner and has been able to recruit. You started out on Friday, and the bats really came out for the Bobcats. They scored 12 runs on 17 hits and no errors. So you got to like the hitting, you got to like the fielding. Saturday they got another win, 14-8. The bats came out again. They rallied from an early 4-run deficit against UNC Asheville, and then they tallied 14 runs on 16 hits with 5 doubles, and just another couple players making names for themselves this weekend. John Adrian had 2 hits, 3 RBIs on Saturday. Manny DeJesus was a home run away from a cycle on Saturday. You had Mitch Longo, 2 for 4, 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored on Friday. So a lot of big name performances. But like you said, Rudy Rott, the freshman coming out of nowhere, is going to make Ohio look that much scarier in this MAC conference.
What was big for this Ohio team was they did get a loss on Sunday, but look at what happened before that. Friday, they score 6 runs in the top of the 9th to end up winning big. Saturday, they're down early, they rally, they get a lead. Sunday, they surrender, they're losing 4-0 after just 2 innings of play, and they end up clawing back. They only lose by 2. This is a team that shows that in adversity, they don't just crawl up into a little hole. They end up trying to fight back, and they claw their way back. One big reason for that is the success of the bullpen, and one guy who was very successful this past weekend was Jake Miller. Jake Miller had 2 appearances. He ended 1-0 with a 3.6 earned run average. He pitches 5 innings and get this, strikes out 8 batters. He struck out 7 of the 15 batters that he faced on Sunday when he came in for relief for Connor Sitz, who got beat up after running into some rain. He pitched a perfect first inning, comes out the second inning, there's some rain. He surrenders those 4 runs right away. Miller comes in for 3 2/3, and he only ends up surrendering 1 run. That's a great effort.
Yeah, we've really seen this Ohio pitching staff kind of go with a pitching by committee outlook where you're not going to see a guy go 6-7 innings in a ballgame and really press that number. You're going to see a guy like Jerry Salisbury going 3.5, or Tom Coletti going 3 innings, or Jake Miller just going 1 1/3. So you're going to see a lot of pitchers coming into the game, and it has worked very well for Ohio. Like I said, limited UNC Asheville to 5 runs on Friday and only gave up 6 hits on Saturday. So it's been a very good pitching start for this Ohio baseball team as well.
Yeah, and Jake Miller on Friday goes 1 1/3. Eddie Fitzpatrick goes an inning. He's a transfer from Brown, and he had a perfect inning in relief. The bullpen's outstanding. The only question is, can the starters pick up the slack? Because if this starting roster, who throws very hard, they throw the ball about 90 miles an hour, if they can pick it up, then this Ohio team's going to look very good. It's kind of the opposite problem of what the softball team has had, where the softball team doesn't have the bats right now, but man, do they look good from a pitching perspective. They only had 2 pitchers the entire weekend, Savannah Jo Dorsey, who we know very well, and then you ended up having Danielle Stein. She was 2-0 with a 1.47 earned run average. Man, she made Savannah Jo Dorsey look like she was a poor player, and Savannah Jo Dorsey had a great performance this weekend.
Yeah, and when you talk about Savannah Jo, I mean, she's one of the best players to come through this Ohio softball system. So to have a player kind of show her the opening weekend kind of shows you Ohio softball has got some pitchers to worry about as well. They played in the Carolina Classic this past weekend and got off to a very great start, a 3-1 record to start the season. And you talked about some of the pitching. Savannah Jo Dorsey, 3 strikeouts, a complete game on Friday, 3 hits and only walked 3. And then you had Danielle Steen come in on Saturday, complete game shutout in her first game. She said she was a little nervous in those first couple innings, but the coach loves her changeup. She thinks she can work it very, very well. So they've got 2 very good pitchers in this system for Ohio, and then they get the bats when they need to. They had Sloan Walker for Ohio scored twice in the 6th on Friday, and then you had Michaela Cooper 2 for 2 with an RBI. So they get timely hits, but when you have pitching like that, you only need so many runs to get a victory.
Sloan Walker was picked to be all-first MAC team in the preseason polls. Ohio was picked to win the MAC in softball. There are very high expectations for this Ohio team, and after the first weekend, it looks good that they are going to end up continuing with great success. That's all the time we have right now. We're going to hit a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to go to the hardwood, though, and we'll talk about some struggles that were had this past week.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I didn't see you there. Ever wonder what really happens in the world? Ever wonder what the media is keeping from you? Well, look no further than AVW's News Time for all your answers. Ohio University's most reliable source of unreliable news. All news, all the time, none of the facts. All made possible by AVW Productions. You can trust us. We're professionals.
Hello, welcome back to Ohio Sports Zone. I'm John Kosas alongside Ben Mitchell, and we have Mitchell Lyons joining us to talk about the Ohio men's basketball team. Mitchell, this Ohio men's team has been on a tear as of late, coming into the game against Bowling Green just 2 days ago. Ohio had won 7 of their last 8 games. Ohio had risen to number 2 in the MAC, just behind Akron, 1 game behind Akron. But then they face Bowling Green for a second time and fall to Bowling Green for a second time, 87-82. The first game Ohio played against Bowling Green, they surrendered a 10-point possession. What happened in the second game? Why can't they figure out the Falcons?
Well, this was not seen coming at all. I think Ohio looked at this as a win, and it just fell into a classic trap game for the Bobcats. Came off the big win over their rival from Miami, and coming up in the next few games, they have Buffalo, and then that huge game against Akron. I think they just started to look ahead, thinking Bowling Green's lost 7 straight, and 11th in the MAC. They just looked ahead, and they got beat. And you can't do that in the MAC. Bowling Green's a good team that can score. And the thing about Bowling Green is that we've given up over 50 points in the second half to them in both games. Last time it was 58. This time it was 51. You can't beat many teams when you're scoring 51 points.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio had the chance to take second place in the MAC East, and I mean, that's crucial with the logjam you have up top, but with them losing to Bowling Green, you have a 3-way tie in second place, and then you've got Akron 1 game ahead, and this team was riding a 5-game winning streak, so they were very hot coming into this Bowling Green game. How big of a hiccup was this for Saul Phillips to try and turn this team around? How unexpected was it to come into Bowling Green and get that loss?
I think it was very unexpected, but it ends up not being that much of a hiccup for this team. Akron lost to Miami in a game that no one saw coming. Buffalo beat Kent State, and Toledo beat Ball State. That means the 4 top teams all lost on Tuesday. So Ohio, even though they didn't gain any ground and they had a significant chance to gain that ground, they end up not losing any ground. They're still a game back of Akron, and now there's that tie for second place, and they still own the tiebreak over everybody. So it doesn't end up costing them. They just hurt themselves because they could have gained a lot.
Well, in theory, the opportunity cost is what hurt them. This Ohio team, if they would have won, would be tied with Akron, and then fate would be 100% in their hands. If they beat Akron this upcoming week, you'll see it even more clearly as this Ohio team would then own the tiebreaker against Akron. Now, the big thing that you're looking at is, what are you going to do with bench play? Ohio only had 2 shots from the bench. Kenny Kaminsky actually started instead of having Gavin Block start because he finally passed concussion protocol, and he shot 1 for 10. So are you going to have to reorder your entire offense, or are you going to have Gavin Block starting? What does this Ohio team need to figure out with its depth going into the MAC tournament?
Well, obviously, you cannot have Kenny Kaminsky shooting 1 of 10, but I think 1 loss should not change your entire rotation. Ohio had, like we said, won 7 out of 8 and 5 in a row. You lose the 1 game to Bowling Green, it just happens. You fall into some of that defensive hiccups like you did. I don't think you change the rotation. And it's not like they're needing their bench to score a ton. When you have Jerron Simmons, Antonio Campbell, Jordan Dardis, all these guys that can score at will, I don't need Gavin Block, Mike Laster to come out here and give me 10, 15 points a game. They like their role, just come off the bench, give us some energies, hit some threes, and play defense. I don't think you change your rotation at all.
Yeah, bench is obviously going to be an issue with this team and something they're going to have to work towards if they're going to make an imprint in March. But this starting lineup has been fantastic. Jerron Simmons put Ohio up with 4 minutes to go to give Ohio a 69-68 lead. Thought we could turn it around and get a victory there, but Bowling Green answered and did not look back after that. But Antonio Campbell and Jerron Simmons has been fantastic. Antonio Campbell scoring 29 points, had 8 rebounds. Jerron Simmons had 24 points, 9 assists in this game. Which of these guys do you think really needs to step up in March when the MAC tournament starts to get going? Which of these guys do you think needs to lead this team by example and get the bulk of the points if they're going to advance to the championship?
Out of those 2, I actually think it's Jerron Simmons. If you look at, everyone may think Tony Campbell because he's won the MAC Player of the Week 2 weeks in a row, but he's been a model consistency all season. He leads in double-doubles. I think he's my favorite anyway to win MAC Player of the Year. So you look at Jerron Simmons. You're the point guard. He's the leader. He's the one that plays 38, 39 minutes a game. In order for him to win, he's the one that has to get in the lane and draw fouls. So I think Jerron Simmons is the one that has to step up, continue to lead the team in assists, and make plays for Jordan Dardis, Gavin Block, Kenny Kaminsky, and everyone else.
Well, real quickly, before we head to commercial break, Mitchell, you talk Antonio Campbell, you talk MAC Player of the Year. His stats over this last 10 games have been absolutely astronomical. Do you think there's anyone that can contend with him for MAC Player of the Year?
Obviously, you look at Nate Booth in Toledo as a look. Big dog, Isaiah Johnson in Akron as one. But Tony Campbell, over the last 2 weeks, is averaging 26 and 14. I don't think there's anyone that can really contend with Tony right now.
Well, let's hope Ohio can finish the regular season strong and get a little momentum heading into the MAC tournament. We will take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we will be talking a little bit about Ohio's future football schedule. Don't go anywhere.
Look, he's blushing.
Looking for these? You drive Buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Toucan Sam.
What's it take to get some hunky construction equipment up in here, huh?
I hope you're joking.
I think we need to follow the advice of Jesus and get down, girl. Go ahead, get down.
Please state your name and the role you're auditioning for.
Hi, my name is Christopher Walken.
What if it is Loch Ness Monster?
I mean, I got some shopping to do at Whole Foods, so I'll join in.
But to my captain.
I'm right then. I knew I was right.
Hello, welcome back to Ohio Sports Zone. We're transitioning from the hardwood to the turf of Peden Stadium and actually to the paper, where the league has finally drafted a schedule. I'm John Costas alongside Ben Mitchell. We're joined by football expert Alex Utano, and we're going to be talking Ohio Bobcats football. Alex, what is the biggest thing that jumps out to you on the schedule right now?
Well, obviously it's a game against Tennessee. It's a game against a ranked school. They were 22nd come seasons. Then they had a big victory against number 13 Northwestern in the Outback Bowl with an impressive 45-6 win. They have a great quarterback, Joshua Dobbs, last year, 2,291 yards, and he had 15 touchdowns to 5 picks. He also had 671 rushing yards with 11 touchdowns, so he's a touchdown machine. He's going to be back next year. Jalen Hurd, who had 1,288 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns. He's going to be back next year. You also got a great deep threat in Von Pearson with 409 yards, 3 touchdowns. They also had 5 multi-touchdown receivers. They were very diverse in who had the scoring down the field. They had a great regular season as well. They competed with number 8 Alabama, only dropping them by 5 points, 19-14. They competed with, at the time, 19 Oklahoma, losing that game 31-24. They did also get a victory over number 19 Georgia. So this is a good football team. It's going to be in an NFL-like stadium. It's going to be a tough environment for the Bobcats to win, but it'll definitely be a test to see how truly much they improved over the offseason.
Yeah, and this game is earlier on, a non-conference game for the Ohio Bobcats, so it's very important. Ohio was able to use a fantastic start last year to gain a little recognition in the MAC conference. The only loss they picked up was a very controversial ending to a Minnesota game where I think a lot of people here in Athens had some things to say to those referees. But yeah, like I said, they got off to a 5-1 start last season until they got tripped up big time, 49-14 in a loss to Western Michigan, and then they ended up losing 3 straight. Where do you see Ohio tripping up this season if they had, a trap game on the schedule?
That's going to be tough, but if I had to pick, I'm going to go with Bowling Green. And that's a game I'm excited about to see at home because the Bobcats have a very long losing streak against Bowling Green. They haven't beaten them since November 16th, 2011, and that was a narrow 1.29-28 win, and it was at Peden Stadium, so it would be nice redemption. But like I said, they've had a tough time in past years with Bowling Green, and they have a generally easy out-of-conference schedule. Texas Tech, Gardner-Webb, Kansas having a dreadful 0-12 year. Those are 3 schools that should be victories for the Bobcats. They're not shoo-ins, obviously, because it's a MAC school. You never know what's going to happen, but leading into that Bowling Green game, that's definitely a trap game. They do lose Matt Johnson, who was second in the NCAA in passing yards with 4,946. He had 46 touchdowns to complement that. So that's not going to be there. They're also losing their top rusher, Travis Green, who had 1,299 rushing yards, as well as 15 touchdowns. So those are two big holes. Yes, they do have some solid replacements. For example, running back, they could have Fred Coppett, who had 825 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, but there's going to be a couple holes, and I feel like Bowling Green's going to be one of those revamped teams that Ohio might not see coming, and it could definitely derail their success this year.
Well, Alex, you're going to lose the Battle of the Belt. This is the first year in a long time that Ohio does not play Marshall. That contract was renewed, but it's not going to take place again until 2018. Despite that, though, you still have 2 games against power conference schools. That's Tennessee and Kansas. You've already mentioned it. Not only are they 2 games against power conference schools, but they're 2 winnable games for this Ohio team. What does that mean not only for Ohio in the program, but for the MAC as a whole if Ohio could pick those up? Because remember, we're not too far removed from Toledo upsetting a number 18 ranked Arkansas team, which just happened last year.
And you can also flash back to when Ohio beat Penn State. They had a whole cover on Sports Illustrated, and people finally started to recognize the school Ohio. When you say Ohio, people go, oh, Ohio State. I know some girl back in high school signed my yearbook as, have fun in Ohio State. I'm not going to Ohio State, it's Ohio. So that'll definitely get some brand recognition. It would be huge just to get that national recognition and to show that MAC teams are improving. But the big point or part of this will be is if Ohio is able to upset Tennessee and have a fantastic season, they cannot have any hiccups, because that seems like what MAC schools are known for, to have great runs. Like you saw Toledo lose to Western Michigan after having a fantastic, well, it was Western Michigan if I recall correctly, but they were having a fantastic run. They were derailed by a MAC school that, while there is some talent there, they should have beat. And if Ohio is able to exercise those demons for the MAC, get some good wins for the program, it'll definitely gain popularity for the Bobcats. It'll make the MAC more respectable, and MAC football will grow as a whole from Ohio's success.
Yeah, and just mentioning, there was a lot of controversy surrounding Penn State before Ohio played them. There's a lot of controversy surrounding Tennessee this offseason, so that could be an interesting parallel for Ohio to come in with a little momentum. Head coach Butch Jones has got to defend his program and whatnot, so Ohio could look to set up a trap game there against the Volunteers in Tennessee. But the team last year in terms of offense and defense were very average. 56 on offense, 49th on defense. They're getting a lot of offense back this year, including J.D. Sprague, who played limited snaps, but he's been around the program. Do you think this offense is going to take a step forward next season?
It was tough to say after that iffy bowl performance by J.D. Sprague against Appalachian State, but with the team they have around him, they have some experience. I'm sure J.D. has learned as well how to win the big games. So I think as long as they can learn from their mistakes from last year, win the games that they need to win this year, they're going to have a fantastic season.
Regardless of what happens, Frank Solich will have an exciting season planned for Ohio. That's all the time we have here for Ohio Sports Zone. For Ben Mitchell and Alex Utano, I'm John Kosas. Good night, everybody.